John Doyle from OptixEQ, and today I want to show you how to use OptixPLOT and how to identify races with closers flow, and then some techniques on how to evaluate the closers in the race to see which ones look like more viable contenders, okay? So I'm going to use an example back on the 28th here at Golden Gate. It was race 8. And how do I know this race has a closers flow? Well, first I could see it's a crowded Q1. You can see the contention is aflame. The speed rating is relatively high. I usually look for above 40, but this is right at the line here at 38. But you can really see all that contention in quadrant 1 where all the front runners, there are circles. That means they tend to fall back relative to the other horses in the race. So this race looks like it does have that kind of off the pace flow just visually, right? It's kind of sticks out in that regard. But also I like to look at the run styles just to evaluate them. In this case, we have 4 EPs and 3 PCs and a 1P. And the way I kind of do this, I just do like a simple technique to just see if the flow is, more to the early pace versus the late pace, just on a run style perspective. And I just add up the EPs and the P too. I include the P on the EP side, but I also include it on the PC side, and the number 1 comes out. It's 5 minus 4, and that just tells me the balance is more to the early pace type. If that number was negative, it'd be more to the PCC side. Generally, if you look for races that really melt down, sometimes this number is a lot higher too. So something to note. But in this case, it's just another indication that I have a pace flow that's going to be more to the closer side. So how do I evaluate the closers in this situation? Well, first of all, one of the things I left off the evaluation checklist, which is pretty much a given, if the horse is in quadrant 2 and 4, I'm looking for a square. Okay, so some of the closers might be in quadrant 2 to the right or below that in quadrant 4. In this case, they're all in quadrant 4. I'm looking for a square. Okay, the circle would be a no-go. Okay, that would be an eliminator. So I'm looking for, you see the second bullet point, a good race on the track surface and distance. It's not a, elimination type of thing, but you want to see it, especially at these unique distances like 5.5 furlongs, like synthetic. You want to see the horse has been able to do something on those types of surface and distance in the past. And if the horse has done it on the track, that's, in the past, that's a benefit too. So you just want to kind of evaluate that. You don't want to see like an 0 for 8, sprinting on synthetics for a particular horse with no seconds and thirds, okay? So that's something you want to look for. Recent positive notes, grades, or keywords. What I'm looking for there is not like a B+ grade, something that's really obvious. I'm looking for things like trouble, better than looked, improve on the keywords, maybe an excuse on the grades, something where the horse is a little bit dirtied up and is better than his form might indicate. On the class thing, I want to see a horse, maybe dropping. Maybe the horse was really over his head the last couple of races, is dropping in class today, gets a better pace scenario. That's good. A horse staying at the same class who's getting a different pace scenario. And sometimes you see this too. It could be a common race where, the dynamics of the common race favored the early pace last time, and now it's changed because a couple other horses were entered into the race and changed the dynamic. I want to be looking for, I think that's a plus for horses that might have been dirtied up, maybe didn't run their best with the wrong pace dynamic last time. Going to get the right, more favorable pace dynamic today. That's a positive thing. Another thing that I think is kind of sometimes overlooked, you want to see a horse run a good race in the past with a fast pace scenario. So if you got a closer here, you want to say, look at maybe some of his race shapes where, in our case with Optix grid, looking for fast or very fast, but I would just be looking for fast. And just to make sure that the horse has run a good race against that scenario sometime in the past. Sometimes with these closers in fairly fast paces, and that's what we're expecting today, is the field gets stretched or whatever, and they just can't overcome it. They're just too deep of closers. So you want to just see a horse that's able to overcome that. And so when you're evaluating that, you want to kind of look at that. It sounds silly sometimes, right? If really fast pace should really be to the beneficial closer, but sometimes, like I said, they get just too far behind, have to do too much, and they just don't get it done. So pay attention to that. Also, a positive would be an upgrade would be a horse that's overcome traffic or trouble in the past. That when you're running from behind, you can run into lots of issues. So this is a positive. A horse that showed grit, showed, whatever, showed something to be able to overcome some kind of situation is a positive. So we'll get more of an upgrade from us. The most important thing is the odds. We're looking for 5-1 or better, and the reason is these deep closers, you can see the percentages, they don't win at a high rate. When they do, you need to get paid. Or when they do run underneath, you need to get paid. So, some of the horses that, I'd be looking for like 10-1 or better, for underneath kind of scenarios, okay? So if you think the horse could win, 5-1. If you think the horse could get into the exotics, you'd be looking more 10-1, okay? So the longer the better in this situation. Again, it's a situation that doesn't come up that often. When we do these, and I look through this criteria every day, maybe there's 1, 2 at most, and then situations change, scratches and all the rest. So there's just not a lot of these plays. You got to stick with it for a time because it'll pay off in the long run. We just kind of know that. We've been doing this for a long time, so you got to stick with it. You can't just look at one of these races, get frustrated, and say this doesn't work, or 2 or 3 in a row, because the situation will reward yourself in the long run. You just got to get familiar using this technique. At least we give you a framework. You may develop some other criteria. You may find some other things yourself as you go along. You may have some other criteria for handicapping the closers in a race. But we think this is a good framework and a good starting point, an easy way to kind of at least identify races that could melt down and could benefit the closers. Okay? Hopefully this was helpful. If you want more videos like this explaining kind of the different pace scenarios or plot scenarios, contact us on our website. There's a contact us there, and there's a form. You just send it, and we'll get it. And we're pretty good at responding. So thanks.